knocked him out at the start, but as we saw, he came to my ears and whispered, "Please be easy on me." He thought I'm Mike Tyson and I will follow his script 40 seconds after I broke the clown's jaw. We are boxers, not content creators. I wish that I could have knocked him out at the start, but as we saw, I didn't want to put him down early. You all know I was handcuffed. I don't want to say anything that I will be regretting in the future, but all I can say now is the first 20 seconds was enough for me.
Like, this is the clearest, like, fixed fight you're ever gonna see. But look at this guy holding his hands up and watch. Look at this. He, like, literally shows him his chin,
like,
and he goes down. It's so fake. Look at, and he's got nothing. It's like a guy who just learned.
That gap between what we were promised and what actually happened is where the truth starts bleeding through. And it's bleeding everywhere if you stop lying to yourself. That Tyson detail still eats at me because memory loss isn't some funny footnote. It's a warning signal. Warnings don't appear for no reason. And whether it's physical, psychological, or something darker nobody dares to say out loud, the discomfort never disappeared. It was never solved, just smothered under noise and promotion. Then Joshua's punch ripped the cover clean off. So who decided to bury it in the first place? Honestly, who thought that was okay?
That guy did great. For someone who's been boxing for like less than a decade, he has had no real professional opponents other than Tommy Fury that were legitimate world-class boxers.
Pros break down tape differently, and this rattled fighters backstage because they didn't see spectacle. They saw spacing, timing, and tension. And what stood out was a man realizing far too late that the rules had shifted. That moment is pure fear because it tells you the safety net was never real. And fake safety nets end careers overnight. That's why Rogan's tone changed, not out of morality, but recognition. He's watched damage cross invisible lines before. He knows when a headline is about to detonate. Don't fool yourself. And don't think the suits didn't run worst-case scenarios. They rehearse them daily. Which means what we're witnessing now is reputation control unfolding in real time. Calm expressions, panicked backrooms. And the longer answers take, the louder doubt becomes. Because if it were simple, explanations would be immediate. Instead it feels layered, bargained, carefully strained. And that's never a good sign. So when you hear delays, think leverage. When you hear silence, think pressure. And ask yourself who's gaining the most from the haze right now.
Kind of blanked out a little. Listen, know what I remember? Coming back from the first round, and then the next day I remember Jake is doing some kind of, I don't know, what was he doing at the ring?
Oh, yeah, a little bow at the end, he bowed.
And that's the last thing I remember. You know, but the day after the fight, right after, the day after, I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? You know, I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on.
What did you think of Jake's power, man, when you were in there?
I don't remember it, but my body was really sore. Yeah, my body, my chest, my stomach and stuff was...
I keep coming back to Joshua, not as a savior or a villain, but as the trigger. He didn't invent the problem. He forced it into the open before anyone was ready. And exposure destroys control. Control was always the real asset here. Control of narratives, of outcomes, of perception. And a single punch tore that illusion apart. And control never gives up without a fight. So expect resistance. Expect reframing. Expect people to suddenly remember events a little differently. Because once the grip loosens, everyone scrambles for something to cling to, even if what they're holding isn't true.
Nuts, right? Just the fact that he's willing to fight the two-time heavyweight champion, former Olympic gold medalist, a guy who's gigantic in his prime, built like a Greek god. And you're gonna stay, and he's a one-punch killer, and you're gonna.
When Joe Rogan broke down that moment, he touched on what Joshua's performance made impossible to ignore. Some people will wave it off and say it's boxing, injuries happen, move on. That's lazy. Context is everything. And this context is drenched in marketing promises of legitimacy that were never fully earned. When promotion runs faster than reality, someone always pays the gap. This time the invoice came in bone and steel. And now it's being slid across the table, hoping someone else picks it up. And no, I don't see Jake Paul as a villain. I see a product. And products get pushed to their limits. When they fail, everyone suddenly starts arguing about the fine print.
you could only take so much. And at a certain, like that one that he got from Joshua, say if you have like a punch card, you have like so many punch that you can get in your life, which I believe you do. I believe there's a certain number. That one was like 10 bunches.
Yeah.
That was like, there was a lot of concussions.
I keep asking what happens if Paul returns changed in his head, not his body. Because once you learn you can be broken, the ring shrinks. It presses in. Confidence becomes an act. And acted confidence is dangerous. That's not commentary, that's history. And history doesn't soften the lesson. It repeats it. Lurking beneath all this is the legal and regulatory layer no one wants to touch. Commissions hate being embarrassed. And this was institutional embarrassment. When systems slip, the shock travels outward. Consequences grow there. And right now, we're only being shown the polished version. The uglier talks are happening behind closed doors, where fault is being divided and stories are being synchronized. Those rooms shape outcomes, not press conferences. I don't think influencer boxing collapses overnight. But I do think something critical got tainted. And poisoned wells don't warn you. They make everyone sick slowly until people just stop showing up. That ending doesn't explode. It fades. And fading is terrifying when your entire business runs on constant attention. So watch who falls silent first. What lingers isn't the punch, it's the pause. That shared moment where everyone inhaled and understood something had crossed a line. And once a moment turns irreversible, no amount of spin puts it back. It just sits there, gaining weight. That's why this feels unsettled. Because it is. It's unresolved and still shifting. And until truth replaces choreography, this story keeps fracturing and fractures spread on their own. Right now, it feels like we're standing on ground that hasn't finished collapsing yet. And I'm convinced something else is coming up. Something they desperately don't want connected.
After this Floyd fight, maybe we can have a rematch. He did well, but I want to try it again.
Is that something that you would be interested in terms of righting the wrong and knocking him out?
I would be interested. Yes, I would. I would be interested in that.
This doesn't end quietly. It ends with commissions panicking, insurers going silent, and a business model hemorrhaging in full view. Now rewind with me, because if you blink, you miss the exact fracture point. Reality broke through the script, and everything started screaming at once. The moment Normal showed up, the system short-circuited. When Joshua treated him like any other body across the ring, the fantasy collapsed. That silence after the punch was louder than the arena. No, this can't be real. And if you think this was just a knockout, you already missed the catastrophe forming behind it. I keep replaying it, and every replay makes it darker, not clearer. Because this wasn't just a fighter getting hurt. This was leverage dissolving in real time. Here's the part no one wants to say out loud. When things are clean, people speak fast and plain. Right now, it's all noise, hedging, cautious language tripping over itself. So ask yourself why truth suddenly avoids daylight. Who's buying time? Who's counting favors? And what exactly are they terrified will surface next? Here's my straight take, and it's ugly. Jake Paul didn't build a boxing career. He built a controlled environment. And controlled environments only work until someone stops playing along. Joshua didn't revolt. He didn't posture. He just acted like a normal elite fighter. And that's lethal to a system that survives on exceptions. The moment Normal arrives, the experiment collapses. If you're uncomfortable right now, good. Discomfort means the illusion is cracking and something underneath is gasping for air. People keep chanting bravery like it's armor. But bravery without judgment is liability. And liability is what networks ensure, not fighters. So don't stare at the ropes, follow the signatures. Someone approved this knowing the gap, knowing the risk curve, knowing how this could end. Approval equals responsibility. And responsibility is being dodged so aggressively you can feel the wind. Every time they pivot to toughness instead of judgment, another warning light flashes. Count them. Don't look away. Yes, the injury matters. But the precedent is the radioactive part. Because once a brand measures itself against elite violence, the ceiling becomes visible. And that ceiling isn't abstract. It's solid. And someone just slammed into it headfirst. From here on, every influencer bout exists under Joshua's shadow. A long, merciless shadow that erased plausible deniability. Promoters loved saying, "We don't know yet," Yeah, now we do. And they're scrambling because the tape doesn't lie, even when people do. What unsettles me most is how predictable the fallout was. Not the punch, the panic afterward. Boxing history is a graveyard of moments where entertainment pushed too far and paid later. It always moves the same way. Amusement to curiosity. Curiosity to concern. Concern to regret. And guess where we're stuck? Right between concern and regret. Timelines are already being rewritten. Don't insult me by calling these people naive. They understand force, damage, risk, which means the gamble wasn't accidental. So ask yourself who is supposed to lose, because it was never meant to look like this. I'll say names now because pretending otherwise feels dishonest. Anthony Joshua didn't wake up planning to expose anything. He did it anyway. Jake Paul didn't wake up expecting to become a cautionary label. Yet here we are. And when I look at Eddie Hearn, Dana White, Joe Rogan, commissions, promoters, I don't see cartoon villains. I see adults who knew exactly how sharp the blades were and smiled through it. That's what sticks with me. This wasn't ignorance. This was confidence. And confidence got punched in the mouth. When Rogan's tone shifted, you felt it. Because he's seen real damage up close. He's talked to fighters after wars. He knows what blank staircases mean. That's why his reaction mattered more than 1,000 tweets. When Rogan goes quiet, it's not performance. It's his mind running worst-case footage. And the second he spoke differently, a lot of people watching felt that same cold drop in their stomach. Jake Paul is complicated, whether people like it or not. He's brave. He's ambitious. He's smarter than critics admit. But bravery isn't preparedness, and ambition doesn't override physics. Standing across from Joshua wasn't facing a YouTube antagonist. It was facing a lifetime of violence compressed into reflex. Anyone who's boxed knows that gap isn't motivational. It's existential. Joshua didn't look angry. That's the most unsettling part. He looked normal, focused, professional. And that normalcy shattered the illusion. If he'd showboated or acted cruel, people could rationalize it. But he didn't. He just did his job. And when a business model collapses under someone simply doing their job, the foundation was never real. I keep thinking about Eddie Hearn in particular because he knows boxing history better than most. Which means he knows how many careers ended when entertainment blurred into reality. When people like him turn careful afterward, that's not PR. That's calculation. That's someone replaying decades of ghosts and asking which one just stirred. Commissions don't shout, but they remember everything. And if you think regulators forget nights that embarrass the sport, you've never dealt with bureaucracy. Embarrassment sticks. Once it sticks, approvals slow, questions multiply, fast lanes close. And that doesn't just affect Jake Paul. It affects everyone orbiting this space. That's why this feels unfinished. Because it is. And something else is moving under the surface. Something they're desperately hoping doesn't connect. Influencer boxing, and even real fighters who had nothing to do with this fallout, are going to feel it. And Tyson's name hanging over all of this makes it heavier, because Tyson is a living record of what happens when spectacle chews fighters up. When comments about memory loss surface and nobody presses deeper, that's not reverence. That's avoidance. And avoidance always collects interest. Usually when someone isn't ready to pay it. Fans love choosing sides, but the truth is uglier. You can enjoy the spectacle and still admit the line was crossed. I think a lot of people felt that tension watching Joshua land clean. Part of you lights up because that's real boxing. And part of you thinks, wait, this isn't supposed to feel like this. Once that contradiction hits, it doesn't leave. Dana White acting like this doesn't touch the UFC side is almost funny, because crossover spectacle never exists in a vacuum. When boxing reminds everyone what elite violence actually looks like, it recalibrates expectations everywhere. And suddenly fewer people buy the idea that experience gaps are cosmetic. That undercuts a lot of influencer-driven hype across combat sports. I don't think Jake Paul is finished, but I do think he's altered. Confidence after exposure is never the same. Anyone who's fought knows that once you've been properly cracked, your brain rewrites the ring. It feels tighter, louder, closer. That shift won't show up on Instagram, but it's lethal in real exchanges. Promoters are loyal until the math shifts. And the math shifted hard here. Risk went up. Plausible deniability went down. Once those lines cross, everyone suddenly claims they were cautious all along. Which is rich, because caution doesn't sell arenas. Confidence does. And confidence just took a body shot. I also think about the sparring partners and gym voices who knew the gap was real but didn't have platforms. Every gym has people who warn and get ignored. Those people aren't celebrating right now. They're probably sick. Because being right about danger doesn't feel good when someone actually gets hurt. The media plays innocent, but thumbnails tell the truth. Outrage sells until it scares advertisers. And fear kills business. Watch how coverage shifts from hype to concern to distance. That arc is automatic. It's already happening. Anthony Joshua will move forward, because elite fighters always do. But this moment clings to his legacy in a strange way. Not as brutality, but as exposure. He became the measuring stick that ended an argument. And being the end of an argument carries weight, whether you wanted it or not. What bothers me is how many people keep calling this inevitable, like that absolves anyone. Inevitability doesn't erase responsibility. A lot of sharp minds signed off on this knowing the odds, knowing the worst case, and betting anyway. That's not fate. That's choice. Boxing never forgets moments like this. It shelves them, then pulls them back out when someone makes a similar mistake. Years from now, this fight will get referenced quietly in offices as a reason deals fall apart, even if fans barely remember why. Jake Paul's brand was built on control, timing, narrative dominance. Joshua stripped that away in under a minute. And once narrative control is gone, everything feels unstable. Now Jake isn't selling possibility. He's selling recovery. And recovery is a harder story to move without sounding desperate. There are texts being sent right now between promoters, managers, and fighters that will never see daylight. And those conversations are colder than anything said publicly because private talk doesn't need spin. I guarantee some of them say the same thing. We can't risk that again. Not with him. Not like that. I don't think this ends influencer boxing, but I do think it ages it overnight. After this, you can't pretend experience gaps don't matter. Once that truth sets in, the matchmaking pool shrinks. Shrinking pools mean fewer events, fewer headlines, less noise. As a fan and as a human, that's what leaves me uneasy. The excitement came from pretending the line wasn't real. Now the line is sharp and visible. Visible lines change behavior. And when behavior changes, industries follow slowly, then suddenly. This feels like the slow part, right before the snap.